Hey, it's Straw Hat Sam here. I'm going to talk about the design choices that went into making the Puffin, which is a 4-inch ducted whoop for carrying the Naked Black Magic, kind of a complement to the Pigeon, a drone that's more suitable for indoor use and very close to people and other soft targets. Okay, here it is, the little guy, the little drone that could. So it's a 4-inch, and here's what it looks like when it's built up. It's really meant to be used with these HQ 4-inch hexablades. These are a lot durable, a lot more durable than the 5-inch versions. The 5-inch versions are super heavy, and it's a lot of rotational inertia, but not a lot of strength. The 4-inch versions are actually quite durable. You can see from all of these, they are dusty from quite a bit of use. I've even crashed this drone a few times, and it crashes just fine, and even the propellers survived. Okay, so back to the frame itself. The arms are similar to the Pigeon in that they're these H-style, where the two pairs of arms are squished together with some silicone in between. This helps with damping and also takes up any kind of slack in the arms, so it's a very rigid and solid feel. It's got a little torsion plate on the inside, like a cross brace, and also the weave of the carbon fiber for both the sandwich plate and the top plate underneath is 45 degrees, and that's to help with the weakness of H, which is the twisting strength. So I'm not able to twist it because it was designed properly. And another thing to note, on the Pigeon, these arms are, okay, so these outer holes here, right? On the Pigeon, these also serve as the camera mounting points. So the reason why I was able to do that is because the propellers are a lot bigger, and so the arms are spread out more. I was not able to do that with the Puffin here because if I flattened out the arms such that their angle is even more like an H, it really hurt the tuning performance. It really introduced a lot of vibrations when I did that. But just that little bit of angle, kind of a hybrid between an X and an H, seems to work out pretty well. But on the downside, I do have to have a little extra nubbin for a camera mounting point, but it's so short that it's really not going to introduce any kind of flexing, so it actually works quite well. For the duct/rim design, this is an idea I came up with where you have a carbon fiber outer ring that provides like structural support and impact resistance, and then the duct itself is just TPU. So really the duct is only there to guide airflow, so there's no reason why it needs to be structural. And these ducts have a little groove on the inside that snaps into place on the inside of the carbon fiber. My inspiration for that idea was kind of like car tires, how tubeless car tires, how they just kind of snap in place. But this is like the opposite. Instead of the soft part being on the outside, it's on the inside. Also, the motors are inverted in order to improve airflow. So if you look at the bottom, there's zero obstruction to the airflow. It's more important to have the exit of the propeller be unobstructed than to have the entrance. So above the prop, we have antennas, we have arms, all that junk, but it really doesn't make a huge difference because the air velocity is a lot lower when it's above the propeller. And so the whole point is to boost thrust and efficiency and performance. It really does fly better when you have inverted motors, even at the cost of unoptimized center of gravity. So the camera, when it's sitting up here, the prop line is a lot lower than it would be if the motors are on the other side of the arms. But it seems like the benefits of the inverted motors outweighs the downsides of the center of gravity. The layout is very similar to the Pigeon. We have these universal camera mounts meant for both the DJI original cameras and for the Caddx. And it's meant for the air unit. It's got this TPU cradle that sandwiches the air unit. And in addition, these rear standoffs, they actually press up against the rear of the MMCX connectors, preventing them from coming loose and maintaining a good solid signal. And the way I install the antennas is I just have them run up through the top of the DJI cradle and then out on the other side of the carbon fiber. And I just leave them hanging like that. You can also use the OG, the original DJI antennas, but I like using these ones because with the camera cage on there, that extra little height, these provide a little bit of better signal because they can clear the cage just a little bit better. I tried to make the mounting your accessories easier by adding some zip tie locations, both on the side here for the bigger regulators, but also 3 more holes for zip ties for smaller regulators or even a receiver. Another thing to note with my newer designs, since I've been doing these, I don't know what to call it, I should come up with a name for it, the squishy H, even though it's not squishy. The flight controller screws are free, or they're separate from the arm. So that means if you break an arm, you're not going to have to pull out the whole stack. Instead, you just undo these 2 screws and swap the arm out. There is a little bit of a technique to installing the arms in order to squish the silicone properly, so you can watch my frame assembly video on that, but you won't have to touch the flight controller, which is nice. Also, this is a symmetrical squashed arm layout, so all of these arms are actually identical. You just flip them around in order to mount them on the other side. So that way if you break an arm, it's a lot easier to replace them because you don't have to worry if it's like a dead cat where each arm is kind of unique. For those interested in thicknesses, the arms are 6 millimeters, the sandwich plate and the top plate are 2.5 millimeters, the bottom plate is 2 millimeters, and the rims are 2 millimeters. Here's how I laid out the components. So it's an inverted frame, keep that in mind. So that means you have to remap your motors, but it's not too big of a deal. The benefits of an inverted frame are you have a lot of structural support for the camera mount. If the camera mount was attached to the top plate, this thing is a lot less stiff and it's going to have higher amplitude, lower frequency vibrations, which is not as good for the camera. So yeah, the flight stack is just like that. Also in the back, underneath the air unit, is the capacitor, and then on the other side, the power plug, and then the crossfire receiver underneath. And then this is where you stick your regulators. I've started using the 4.5 amp 12 volt Pololu BECs for powering both the DJI Air unit and the Blackmagic camera. It's just easier because it's one regulator, but I always make sure to solder an extra capacitor to the regulator. And the ducts are spaced out a little bit, stretched. They're still squashed technically, but there's a gap still in order to allow clearance for the USB port, so that's not an issue. And also it just helps with stability and cleaner flight performance. I saw the frame without ducts because it's really a matter of preference I've found between pilots. The characteristics of without ducts is the Puffin really glides through the air quite well, and it's smoother in outdoor use when there's a little bit of wind. The downsides of not having ducts though is, well, I guess the benefits of ducts are they slow you down. So if you're filming in a very small environment, like it's not outdoors, it's in a warehouse or even an office, ducts will help you keep the drone from gliding too far, and it just keeps you under control more. Also, it's extra protection for the propellers if you need to get really close to talent or other soft targets like animals or something. Without ducts, also, you do lose a little bit of efficiency. I think the flight time may be reduced by 30 seconds to a minute, but it is a little bit quieter. With the ducts on, it's just a touch louder, but you get increased efficiency. With that said though, these HQ 6-blade 4-inch props, they're really quiet. Like, the Puffin here is quieter than many Cinewhoop frames I've seen other people fly in person that normally just carry a GoPro. This, even while carrying the Blackmagic on the top, it's just as quiet, if not more quiet. And the reason why is because of these propellers, really. The 6 blades really quiets it down. And comparing this to something like an Insider with a Blackmagic undecased or a Komodo on the top, it's a lot more quiet, it's a lot less obtrusive, it's a lot safer feeling, I guess, on set. And also it just flies a lot better because of the reduced payload. Like, you can actually rip this thing around, as you can see in my Puffin showreel video. Okay, that's all I could think of regarding the design aspects of the Puffin, but if you have more questions about it, feel free to comment down below and I'll try to get back to you. Also, if you're more interested in the components for the Puffin, like the motors, ESCs, flight controller, all that stuff, I will have a rotor builds page dedicated for this frame, so be sure to check that out.